we're going to talk about what's really wrong with the housing market in this video. And we're going to have some other people actually kind of confirm it from the news. So what I think is one of the most crazy things is that depending on who you ask, they give you all types of different numbers. What do I mean by that? When you look at how much insurance is then they'll tell you, oh, it ranges, it ranges from anywhere from like 1,000 to like the infinite, right? And that is not what an average is. An average is this definition right here. So now we're looking at it like, okay, what do you do, right? If you want to move to another state or you want to relocate, you got to get some hard numbers, right? You need to get some hard numbers so you can budget, you can plan, and you see if this works in your budget. Because the worst thing that you can do, and I'm talking about anything, is going in with the pink lenses and then figuring out later on that you can't afford it. But the idea was great and it sounded great, but till it's all said and done, there was just, couldn't do it. So now let's jump into a video and that I got prepared for you guys, and we'll chat on the other side.
How much are Floridians paying on average for property insurance? It really depends on who you pose the question to. In the latest market update just released last week by the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation, state officials write rates are beginning to stabilize. The average homeowner's premium in the admitted market in Florida is approximately $3,600. Insurance.com pegs the average Florida policy at $4,419. The Insurance Information Institute has cited the average policy cost for Florida families at approximately $6,000 a year, and Bankrate has the average at $6,366. We asked Mark Friedlander, who has been following Florida's property insurance crisis closely and has vast industry experience, why there are so many discrepancies when calculating the Sunshine State's average premium price.
Every organization that cites average premiums has different criteria. It's not apples to apples.
Okay, I'm back. So we just saw this video, and I feel like this is wrong with most of the stuff in the US, including the housing market, that depends who you ask, they give you a bunch of different numbers, right? So when you think about insurance, it should be they give you one number. I don't know why they have all these stipulations and all these, oh, we can't take that into consideration, we can't take that into consideration. In my opinion, that's 100% wrong. An average household income is what everybody makes and you divide it. And so does with insurance, right? So it doesn't matter if you have citizen insurance, if you're self-insured or something else, you need to calculate that in. And then you just divide it up, and that's your average. But then they say, oh, you gotta take this into consideration, or you take this into consideration, and you're done. And then they come up with a number that is not accurate. And once you have a number that's not accurate, how are you going to then make a decision if you want to buy or if you want to rent? Because $3,000 difference, as you saw in that video, might persuade you to actually rent instead of buying, because that is a month worth of rental. So I was actually looking at buying something in Florida. I want to escape the cold Vegas winters, for 2 months. So I thought to myself, is it worth buying? And I looked at a $400,000 house, right? And I was looking at it and I'm like, is it something that is doable for me as a secondary house with the insurance as it is? And I couldn't get a pulse on how much it actually is, right? So what do? You'd actually have to figure out, you actually have to go into contract, get a VIN certificate or something else. They need to check all that. And then they're going to tell you if you are qualifying for insurance. And then depending on that, you need flood insurance or whatnot, right? If you're in a flood zone. But then they can move the flood zone also. That happened to my neighbor. So getting a number for insurance or anything else isn't that easy as it should be. It should be that they can give you the easiest numbers, right? They should say, oh, you wanna buy a house? Okay, let's run the numbers what insurance would cost. And they have models, and then bada bing, bada boom. There you have the numbers. It's going to be $5,600 a year. And this is your coverage. And if you don't like it, there's other providers, right? So that's one thing. But how are you going to figure out how much it is before even going into contract? Because this should all be something that should be done virtually. I think we're at a time now where insurance agents should be done with AI. What do I mean by that? It's like, I feel like that most stuff can be done with, you log in, you create a profile, almost, like Geico, you type in the information, it's almost like easy. It should be so easy when you actually just type in the street address and it's going to give you quotes and you don't have to talk to anybody. And AI says, how much coverage do you want? How much do you want this? And then just to finalize it, they'll give you an insurance expert on the phone, because that should just be so easy, right? In theory, we're thinking, right? So now we're looking at it like, okay, property insurance is $6,000. So rent for a similar house is about $3,000. So we already have 1 month's worth of rent without even doing anything, just because of insurance. So then when I buy that other property, I just need renter's insurance, and renter's insurance is so much cheaper than property insurance. So I just got to make sure that at the end of the day, I have the same amount of money left, or save myself a little bit if I rent, because I think I can probably score a deal on a rental, because I'm only there for 3 months out of the year. And maybe my family will go there, once or twice a year. So I can probably score a sweet deal, and I don't have to worry about when I'm not there that shit goes south, and if the poop pump goes out and it burns it up because there wasn't enough water in it, that's not going to be my problem, because I'm just not there, right? And that's what one of my biggest worries is. If you're going to buy something and you're not there a lot, then you're like, oh my gosh, the water pump froze, or froze up, locked, because there wasn't enough water in it or something else, or the air conditioner went out. You have a $15,000 repair, right? So, or a few $1,000s if you don't have to replace the whole unit. So now I'm looking at it like, is it worth buying with all this misinformation? Because all that stuff, you also need to pay property taxes, right? So that's probably another $4,000 or $5,000 that you need to do. So we're already at a few months worth of rent that I could actually put towards the rental cost, right? So now you got to tell me in the comments below if I'm running the numbers all wrong, or if this makes sense to you, because I'm coming at it like property taxes is probably 1 or 2 months worth of rent. Insurance is 1 or 2 months worth of rent. So then there's only a few months left out of the year that I'd have to pay mortgage payment on, and maintenance, and budget that all in, and consider my down payment. I could rent that place for a very long time without any issues, right? So now all I have to kind of make sure is, if I'm going to rent something, if the rental, what I have to cover and what the landlord covers, right? Because depending on who I rent from, and I don't know the laws in Florida about rental, I think they could, depending on the rental contract, might be a little dicey. And I don't know what they're gonna tell you, like what you're gonna sign, what you're responsible for. But also another beauty is, if there's a storm or anything and my stuff's there, I don't really care too much. I can probably get it semi-furnished or something, and then if the storm comes, I just tell him I'm done, and then it's up to the landlord to figure out what's done, right? What he needs to do with the property, because it's not mine. And if it's mine, I got to go check. I got to do that, and it's a whole big deal. So depending on who you ask, and all these numbers are different, it's just not right. I don't think that we as Americans should tolerate it and let these insurance companies and all these other places tell us, oh, it's only $3,800, and then you're at the in escrow figuring out insurance, and all of a sudden they're telling you it is $6,800, and you're like, whoa, 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 hold up. That wasn't what I was thinking about, and that wasn't what I agreed upon. I can't pay $6,800. And when you look at how much the average person makes in Florida, how much does the average person make in Florida? So now we're looking at it right now as we're walking. The average salary is to be for $50,000 or $15 an hour, right? So when we take $15 an hour, 6,000 divided by 15, that's 400 hours. So you're working 400 hours just to have insurance covered, right? So 400 divided by 40, that means you need to work 10 weeks just to have insurance covered. The average person needs to work 10 weeks just to have insurance covered. That is over 2.5 months, and you haven't made a mortgage payment, you haven't driven anywhere, you haven't eaten or anything else. But you live in a place that's super expensive, right? But $15 is absolutely nothing. So thinking about the further the progression of where things need to be going, and there needs to be changes. There needs to be changes to the insurance laws. The state's going to become unattractive because people just can't afford it. And people that are moving there without doing their research or watching this video need to be hyper aware of all of these pitfalls, right? And so if you're going to go out and do it, you need to do all the research beforehand. You need to get pre-qualified. You need to have just call insurance up beforehand and try to get some numbers and get a pulse on what you're going to be paying. Because if you're going to leave from Michigan or some other place and you're going to think that I'm going to live at a cheaper life, I'm going to be, living by the beach way cheaper, it's not the case anymore. People don't get that right. So then you're in trouble because you just sold your house. And with Americans, including myself, we have these ideas, these grandiose ideas, and then we wake up and it's not how we thought it was going to be, right? Because, stuff changes. There's new hurricanes. It's going to be like the worst hurricane year ever. So what does that mean? That means next year, insurance is going to go up again. And they're like, oh, rates are going to stabilize. Yeah, that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. When you think about, oh, it's going to stabilize, or rates are going to come down. No, they won't. When has car insurance rates ever come down, or property insurance rates? They don't. And so when I lived there in 2016, or before that, I owned a car there, right? Like as most people do in Florida. And I spoke to my Geico person at the local office, and I said, to get $300,000, I didn't have too much back then, but it was, I took the deductible of $100,000 in property damage, 300 bodily or whatever it is, right? And just to cover myself or somebody else was like $200 for 6 months. And now get this. What is it to have uninsured coverage, right? So that it is when somebody else with no insurance hits you and causes you damage, so you need to take care of your own insurance. And let me before I say the number what I've paid, drop a comment below and tell me how much you think I was going to pay. And so for 6 months, the 6 months premium was $290, $100,000 to $300,000 for normal coverage, and then uninsured motorist was $800. But it's illegal to not have insurance. So how is that even a thing that it's illegal to have insurance and it is 4 times more expensive to have that, right? So we're here in Las Vegas and there's horses. Look at that. So super pretty, super pretty. love where I live around here. So how is that legal? How is that okay with lawmakers that it's illegal to not have insurance, and uninsured motorists is more expensive than the normal insurance? Because I asked him, how's that? It's like, oh, every third accident in Florida or every fourth one happens with an uninsured motorist. So something like that. And I was like, that is messed up. For all these people that live in Florida and any other state that don't have insurance, get insurance. It costs everybody less if they have it. But if you're not willing to pay for it and you hit somebody, those are the people that have the accident. That's why that is so much more expensive. So I'm gonna fact check that, how many people actually in Florida have uninsured motorist insurance, and I'm gonna put it on the screen so you guys can all see. And maybe the numbers changed from 15 to 16. And I'm back by my car. If you haven't liked and subscribed, I do these videos daily, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.